Hi, everyone. This is Aaron Peternell, one of the board members here with Crawford County Life. I am with Miss Hannah Reid. Hello, Hannah.
Hello.
We were looking at Mental Health Awareness Month, believing that mental health is spiritual health, mental health is emotional health, mental health is physical health as well. And so we have approached Hannah to talk about a concept that actually goes back several thousand years, the concept of the importance of Sabbath.
As we started doing this Sabbath study with our women's group at our church that month in January of 2020. And it's ironic, we finished this study up. It was called Breathe, Making Room for Sabbath by Priscilla Shirer. And we finished it up the week before everything shut down in March of 2020. And we talked about how ironic, maybe not ironic, but coincidental, that we had done this study about Sabbath and resting and everything kind of making space for God and making space for rest. And then March 2020 happened and the entire world shut down. And I looked at my calendar that was so neatly color-coded for the next 3 months and realized none of that's going to happen now. And so I think it really allowed me to apply what we had just studied about the Sabbath into my own life as we were basically forced to take a rest. I'm going to share a lot about what was in this study because it really touched me and made me realize what the Sabbath meant and how it contributed to my mental health. So she said this quote, and I shared it during this time of shutdown in 2020. She said, "Are we so comfortable with exhaustion that we can't even enjoy a break when it's thrust upon us?" And I thought that was so relevant at that time that instead of being kind of relaxed and like, okay, our schedule's free, we all just seem to not know what to do with all of this extra restful time. And I think it's the fact that we go at such a hurried pace all the time. We're busy all the time. We have busy schedules all the time. And we don't really take advantage of this rest that God has actually commanded us to take in the 10 Commandments. And so this study focused a lot about the slavery that the people had been in Egypt and how they had been under this taskmaster and they were required to work. And then when God brought them out of slavery, he was giving them this gift of the Sabbath, and this idea of rest would have been completely unknown to them as slaves. And so there are things in our lives, family, relationships, church, work, hobbies, all of these things that are good things that God has given us to enjoy, but without boundaries, they start to control us. And we're really enslaved to those things. So Sabbath gives us the margin that God intended for us to have so that we can enjoy those blessings, but we're not controlled by them. So this idea of being busy all the time, we kind of look at rest as being lazy or unproductive or this negative idea. And we have to really change our thinking about how this rest is intentionally for us to have renewal and to grow. And so we have to look at this margin being good for our mental health. Myself, I have struggled with anxiety, chronic anxiety since I was 9 years old. And I can always tell whenever our schedule gets really busy, my anxiety goes up. And so there is a direct tie to our level of busyness and almost clutter in our lives and our mental health. It's really countercultural from what the world tells us. Like, you need to be busy all the time. Your kids need to be involved in every activity. You need to do all that you can to volunteer and all of these things. But Galatians 5:1 says, "For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery." So when we think of this concept that God has given us freedom in Christ to have rest and not submit to any yoke of slavery, we should not be slaves to our schedules and to our calendars and to our activities and all of these things. We should not be serving them. And so we have to think of giving, putting things in the right boundaries so that we're not distracted. So the question is, what controls us? What boundaries do we need? The Hebrew word for Sabbath is Shabbat, and it means to come to an end, to cease, to stop, and to pause. And I think when we have those moments that we can stop what we're doing, take a breath, look, and decide what do I need to, kind of put aside for a little bit? What do I need to focus on? How do I need to create margin in my life? God has given us this gift of rest, and he's intentional with it. And how are we stewarding that gift that he's given us? So this has just kind of been my journey with Sabbath and realizing, I'm a regular person. We have ministry, things going on our calendar. We have kids that are involved in activities. I'm a homeschool mom. We're going constantly. And this has been a really busy year for our family. And I sat down with my husband the other day and I said, we have got to be intentional about family time and making time. We were only eating dinner together one night of the week as a family. And so being intentional about taking rest, taking time, refocusing, and just giving yourself this Sabbath time to unplug, focus on God, and realize that it's not being lazy, it's being intentional, and we're using this gift that God has given us.
So, Hannah, I have a couple questions for you. Mm-hmm. The idea of taking a Sabbath rest, of course, comes from the Bible, but yet at the same point, I think that one could argue that there is application for people who are not necessarily in the Christian faith too. Mm-hmm. Could you give us a couple examples of how or why there is that application?
On a level that is not even faith, our bodies are designed to need rest and renewal. Our mental health can really be affected by things such as the weather and our energy level and our schedules. And so I think just on a base level, when we think about we have to recharge, we have to practice renewal, we have to get outside and get fresh air when it's available and take walks. And it really, something that I read recently talked about how if you're depressed or you're kind of just down, every morning, get up, make your bed, and stay out of it. And that to me has been something I've lived by. I get up in the morning and I make my bed and I go about my day. And some days I'm feeling it and some days I'm not. And I have kids that need attention all the time. And so I think you just have to be intentional about, okay, I need this for my mental health, whether that's going for a walk or working out, getting exercise, cooking, anything like that. Just taking the time, being intentional about using some rest time. And another big tip for that is to say no sometimes. You don't have to say yes to everything that people ask you to participate in. It's okay to say no, that I've got too much on my plate, or I just need this time. And so practicing those ideas of being intentional about your time, having time for rest and renewal and just recharging, unplugging, getting away from all of the daily busyness, and then just having the ability to tell people, no, that I just don't have space for that right now.
Hannah, how do you feel like Sabbath has affected your anxiety?
Well, I definitely have more anxiety the busier that I am. I'm definitely an introvert. And so, realizing that I need time at home to recharge and, being in social situations actually, can drain you, especially when you have anxiety. If you're having to talk to people a lot or be in crowds or, anything like that, answer a lot of questions or something, So I think that realizing, I can't go and do everything. Like I have to take breaks, and realizing I need that rest time makes me more effective than in the time that I am, busy with other things and talking to people and serving people and doing those things, if I'm taking those breaks, then it makes me less anxious in those situations. And sometimes it's just, realizing which situations are going to be okay for me and which ones aren't. If something I know is going to induce a lot of anxiety, I either try to avoid that or I try to plan for it to make myself more comfortable in that situation. But anxiety, for me at least, it increases the busier that I am and the less time that I have to recharge in between activities. And, so I know it's different for everybody. Some people love to keep going and keep busy, but I think having that rest time, having intentional time where I'm not having to do certain things and having time to myself to recharge, it makes me more productive and more useful and more able to serve other people